What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Rewired Live. Excited to have another guest on the show today. I was telling you guys yesterday that I'm going to start bringing on more people who are also in the space of like the inner work, because you guys hear me yap about it all day long. I think it's good to hear it from a different lens from other people. And I like to say we're all different flavors of ice cream here, right? In terms of the inner work, we all kind of talk about the same things, but we all have our unique ways of delivering the information, and not everyone connects with me, right? So being able to bring other people in that you might connect with, and maybe you want to go deeper and reach out to these people and work with them, I think that's awesome. It's just about you making the commitment to do the inner work, because you're going to continue to suffer and not live life with the inner peace that you want until you decide to make that shift, right? That shift towards the inner work. It's like you go into church, right? And you hear those people, they say, who's giving their life up to Jesus today? If you ever go into a church, it's like, who's giving their life up to the inner work today, right? Maybe you're watching that and you're like, hey, I know I need to do the inner work. And today is the day that I'm going to start making that commitment to do it, which I think is amazing. So I got Asha Hope coming on. Incredible guy. We had a conversation a while ago. He did some hypnosis on me, which was actually a great experience. But he's a hypnotist. He has his own hero's journey, a lot of things that he's battled through, which I'm sure he's going to share today. And just a really good message. And the theme of today is going to be reprogramming our subconscious conditioning, right? Which is all those patterns that run underneath our conscious awareness that drive like 95% of our life. All right. So without further ado, Asha, welcome in.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Jake, for welcoming me here in your podcast, and I'm very excited to see how this conversation unfolds and all the value you can bring to your audience.
Yes, we all already have a nice accent, so that adds a good tone to the live already.
Thank you.
Cool. So I just want to dive right into your story, man. Our stories are so powerful because they allow people to connect with us. So, I always applaud anyone who's willing to be vulnerable in a public space and share their story, because it's like people can either say, so Tony Robbins said, people can either say me too or so what, right? Oh, I'm Jake and I did all this stuff and I built the business. So what? I don't really care. But I'm Jake, the guy who struggled with X, Y, and Z and needed validation as a kid. Oh yeah, me too. So I think that's why I like to always start with the story, because I think it gives people a chance to be like, oh yeah, me too. So dive right in. Give me the full synopsis on Asha, what you went through and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, stories are amazing, because we can't argue on stories. We could argue on the facts of how pink is my shirt, but we cannot argue on the story because I lived it and I'm the only one who can truly share it. And that's where authenticity comes. And everybody who is listening, I invite people to share their stories, because when we start sharing our stories, we start providing a unique value to the world. My story, is a story of a city boy who really got overwhelmed with ADHD when I was a kid. And the bad thing is that I didn't know I had ADHD until I was 27. It's when I was 27 I was diagnosed. And when I had that diagnosis, all the things that happened before just started making sense, because I was very passionate about a lot of things. And my mom always was surprised how I could remember the name of all the Star Wars characters, even if I just saw them once, like, oh, I know them. And I had this amazing memory, but yet at school, I was failing hard, and all the teachers were like, oh, he's so smart, but he has an issue, And that also created a distance between me and the other kids, because I was not able to relate with them. And so I was the strange kid, and I got bullied, and I really had issues. A lot of problems started popping up, not just the school problems, but also the relationship problems. And that one day led me to start taking drugs. I was like, oh, I want to be one of the cool kids. I'm tired of being the one that everybody's rejecting. I'm tired of being the one that no one's wants to be friends with. So I started asking myself, how do these kids that are at the back of the class, what makes them cool? And one of the things that was in my control was consuming stuff, And one day I started smoking, and I started taking pills. And then I enjoyed it. I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. All my problems vanished. So one thing led to another, and I started selling these drugs. I was like, okay, these are expensive. I have pocket money, but it's not allowing me to buy so much of it. So I just thought like, like all the kids in my school are rich, so they also have pocket money, and I can make money with that. I can become the coolest kid because I'm doing the one thing that everybody is scared of, which is, going over authority. And so I started realizing that the more I was becoming rebellious, the more popular I was becoming. And that just really got me on that tangent of like, hey, everything I'm doing that is dangerous, that not allowed, gives me that aura and is counterbalancing that rejection I had. I went from being rejected to being like loved, and the girls that were rejecting started being interested into me. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. But the thing is that I didn't heal all my problems. I was just covering them with drugs. I was covering them with adrenaline. And fast forward 10 years later, I kept doing that. I kept selling drugs, I kept taking drugs, and I ended up with having like 8 people working for me. And I had like a little organization where things were going well pretty at that point. But then one day, like I came out of a kid who wanted to be popular and became a criminal. And I entered a world where people were doing that from generations, and the world I entered did not see me the same way as I wanted them to see me. And one day I got betrayed. My best friend and associate at the time, he was from the criminal world, and he just saw one day the opportunity to, to make more money and to fuck me up. And he wanted to have his exit plan. And guys came with guns, one day, and that made me realize that I was not the criminal I thought I was. I thought I was a tough guy. I got myself tattoos. I got all the things, like to look like this. But when someone pointed a gun at my face, I shut my pants. I was just like, this is not for me. And that got me to consume way more drugs than I used to. I was consuming cocaine every day. I was taking MDMA, alcohol, weed, tobacco, everything, nonstop. And I was just on that loop, like in the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, when he's saying all the drug he's taking. And it was the same thing, I was taking cocaine, and I was smoking to balance. And, like you make a cocktail of all the drugs that works for you. And at the end of the day, you just keep on doing, and they don't have effect on you. You just like want better, more quality and more. And one day I woke up and I took a line of cocaine like every morning. And I started crying, like started shaking, crying, and I really felt like, no, it's not happening. Something is not happening there. And I was crying, and I called a friend and asked him to ask someone else to help me because I was scared of being rejected when I needed help. So I was like, hey man, can you ask our friend to and he was, yeah, and so I started doing my recovery. And I met a psychiatrist, and psychiatrist said, you know what, you're not a junkie, you have ADHD. And like clearly, when you're telling your story, you clearly have like the signs of untreated ADHD, and you have to take prescription pills. It's like, wait a minute, I have a drug problem, you have a drug solution. It's like I'm the one who is taking drugs here, like. So I said, fuck you, I don't want that anymore. I just run away from that. And I remember watching this video on YouTube of a monk who was saying, like, if you're not meditating 2 minutes a day, you have to meditate 20 minutes a day. And that just really hit me like a train in the face, because I had probably a 2-minute attention span at the time. Like I was not able to have conversation with my friends. I was not able to listen to people. I was just so used to consuming drugs and to having all this excitement in my face that anything that would be just regular or normal would not work for me. And I was like, but somehow, like I saw this guy saying, like, with such peace, such detachment, like he didn't need nothing. This monk was like, just meditate, like I have nothing to gain from it, just do it, And so I started doing it, but it was so freaking hard. Like, recovering from cocaine addiction, having ADHD, starting meditation was just almost impossible. And I found out this thing of hypnosis, where you just listen to someone, and with the tone of their voice and the speech pattern and the words they use, they orient your attention in such a way that at one point, all the mental chatter, all the problems that you have, they just vanish. So I started listening every day, nonstop. I was just like doing all these things. And then one day I saw a friend and he was at my place and I was like, "Man, can I hypnotize you?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And by listening to these tapes for so long, it just came into my mind and I knew how to do it. It's exactly like in the movie Matrix when he said, like, I know Kung Fu. Like, I
Yeah.
listened to it and it reprogrammed my mind without me even knowing what I was doing. I knew that it was feeling good, but I didn't know that I was learning a way of thinking that would allow me to speak in such a way that I would be able to help others. And yeah, like fast forward to not few years ago, I realized that, well, I was able to meditate for more than 1 hour. I was able to remain calm. I was able to listen to people and not only just listen, but to understand them deeper. Then I realized that, oh my God, I have skills that makes me a therapist and that I can help people. And just really, from being someone who was using drugs to have performance, because during the time I was consuming drugs, I had multiple businesses. Like the drug dealing business was bringing me such amounts of money that I could start any business I wanted and fail them because I could burn money. It's just like pouring money into all the projects I loved, and I didn't care if they were not bringing me any returns because the money was just flowing. And all the performance I had was coming from drugs. And then I realized that I could have better performance without using drugs, but just with my awareness, with my decision to sit down. When you can sit down and focus on just your breath for 1 hour, you can do something that will bring positive results in the life of others.
Yeah.
And
I don't mean to
yeah,
cut you off. I want to touch on something that you said earlier.
yeah,
So there's a lot to unpack there, right? Amazing story. I think one arc that a lot of people fall into is they don't feel okay on the inside. They do something externally. It makes them feel a feeling. And then they make this deadly association that when I accomplish things externally or I do X, Y, Z, then I get that feeling that I want.
yeah.
And really it's about flipping that script, understand that that feeling is an internal state we can cultivate. And that's really the foundation of it. But on that point of using, and look how much that like spiraled that one little point just led to so much in your life, right? You had that one hit and then boom, now we're drug dealing, business, all this stuff to our eventual ruin, which kind of wakes us up to the internal game. Why does like using external things to try to fix our internal problems, why doesn't it work?
Because the problem is internal, the solution is external. Simply, when you try to fix something external, you just see the tip of the iceberg. You're not looking at the whole potency of what's happening there. You're not cutting the roots. Like when you go and you lower your mown, the grass is growing back again because you're just cutting the tip. You're just cutting what's external. If you really want to stop the grass from growing, you need to turn the land around. You need to remove all the roots. And that's the work you need to do, is just find where it started. And when you find where it started, you can just cut it at the base, and that's what you need to do.
Yeah, 100%. So by doing the internal work, you're solving the root problem instead of just slapping a Band-Aid on it every day with another drug, or maybe it's not drugs. Maybe it's, maybe it's overworking. It's like you're a workaholic or you are a shopaholic. It could be anything, right? That you're using externally to try to heal this internal problem. So working at the root. So for people who resonate with this and they're like, yeah, that kind of sounds like me. I do have those internal things. I feel like I'm just chasing. I want a better way to operate. Where does someone even start to be able to start to heal the root?
Well, the point of start is where you are. Like if you notice that you have a pattern that feels addictive or that feels that it's unhealthy for you, you need to stop and ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is really pushing me towards that? And the easiest way is just to write a few questions of like, why am I doing this? What's motivating me? And just answer like this, the first answer that comes to you. It's not difficult. Everything that you do has a motivation. So there's just two parts. There's discipline, that's how you do things, and there's the motivation, which is why you do things. So if you want to be successful, what you're gonna do in order to be successful as a discipline, showing up in your business, sending messages. Why you're doing it, that's where the suffering is coming. Because what you do is, it doesn't matter if you align with the why. If you do business because you want to feel rewarded because you're lacking from something, you will be on that end of cycle of like every time you have a reward, you need a bigger one. But if you do the same exact business because you want to serve people, well, the reward is already the expectation of making a better world, and you're not going to be on that cycle. So it's really about understanding what is the motivation, what is the reason you started. And sometimes, we start with a good motivation. I was like, when I started my first coaching business, I was like, oh, I really want to help people. But I also had a lot of limiting beliefs about money, about being successful, about being seen. And these limiting beliefs, they put a weight on my shoulder of like, oh my God, can I really do it in a way that is healthy,
Yeah, I think that's huge. The motivation, the fuel source behind what you're doing. I talk about it like compensatory versus expression-based success. So compensatory success is you're constantly doing things to compensate for an internal lack.
Yes.
Like, and you'll make things up like, oh, I'm doing it for my family. But like, are you really doing it for your family, or are you doing it because you don't feel like you're enough? That's really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never ending, right? Because you get it, and then it's got to be something else, something else, something else. Instead of an expression-based model of success, which is you do it because you like it, and it lights you up because it aligns with your values as a human at your soul level, and it's how you want to contribute to the world. And the beautiful part about the expression-based model is that not only do you feel better, not only are you not running yourself into the ground, you'll get the money. You'll get the money because you're providing so much value to the marketplace with so much love that it's going to come back around. But that money, for me, that was a huge thing for me. It's like, hey, the money is the byproduct for the value and the service I'm providing. Like, I can make a lot of money, but it's not the point.
And even though when you're in expression, the money that isn't especially necessary. What you want is the outcome. If you want to create an impact, if you want people to stop suffering, and you realize that you can do it without needing money, but you receive all the resources needed to make that impact happen, you're just fine with it, because the money is not the goal, because you don't see the money as the way to get the recognition. The recognition is the transformation you create in the world. So everything becomes secondary, and you have a more practical perception of what's really needed. And you're like, okay, what do I need to make this successful? Do I need to become a multimillionaire and everybody look at me as a multimillionaire to be successful? Or is it changing 1,000 lives that's going to make me successful? And so you become more flexible with the metrics of success, which also allows you to feel like, oh, I don't have to stress if the things are not going as planned.
Yeah. And I think when we look at business, in life, it's like it's an infinite game, meaning that you don't win business by like getting to some points. You win business by just staying in business and by staying in the game. So talk about the sustainability of using like that reward or fear-based motivation versus the intrinsic motivation, right? They're two different paths. And when you look over the course of maybe a decade, one's like more sustainable than the other. Can you like talk about that?
Well, I think like we need to understand, as business, as you say, it's an infinite game, and we are also finite people. We only have 24 hours a day, and we need to accept the limitation we have. When we look at business, it's very easy to get crazy and say, oh, the goal is to make as much money as possible, to make as much impact as possible. But maybe the goal should be the experience we're having during, because we also have a personal growth. And when we're able to embed our personal growth into the growth of the world and see it as a whole, like I'm here to contribute. And when we look at business in terms of contribution, we had this conversation about purpose. What is your life purpose? I do believe that your life purpose will change every decade or every year, maybe, because your purpose is to contribute to the world in the best way you can. Like right now, my purpose is to help people with hypnosis, because for a few years I needed to learn that for myself, That was my personal growth. And now I'm embedding my personal growth into the growth of the world, saying, hey, there's a lot of people who are suffering from that because they're disconnected from themselves and they've been grinding. And now I can embed my own personal experience within the experience of the world. That's where, like your personal story enter into the community, and that's what I feel like we need to focus business on, is that how can we weave in what we do with what the world needs and create something that's sustainable in that way.
Ooh, that's great. I didn't even think about that. So you're talking about your personal growth, how you grew personally now becomes your contribution point to the collective earth.
Exactly.
And that's the true definition of success. And I think that, it helps us reflect on those difficult times, because we all have pain, right? And we all have hard times, and we need to go through those hard times in order to be able to help other people go through those hard times. Because it's one thing, I say that there's intellectual understanding and there's experiential understanding. I can know about your struggles with addiction and all this stuff, but I don't really know because I didn't go through it. So I'm not going to be able to help someone who's been dealing with addiction, needs all this stuff, as deeply as you are, because you know the felt sense. So I think that's super important. Like, we are given trials and tribulations in our life really for a reason, so that we can push through those things and then we can help other people, right? Especially for us leaders and coaches and teachers who want to help.
Yes, it's exactly. Like the felt experience is amazing, because there are things that are so complicated to explain that you have to live them. And when you live these kind of things, you can then help people with more authenticity. And that's where, I feel like business and authenticity are connected, where when you are using your life experience into your business, you bring a level of authenticity within it that just create more selflessness. It's not like, oh, I don't see an opportunity of making business. My life has taught me how I should do business and how I should connect to the world, because that's the path I receive, and the mission that I've received at my birth has been given to me through that experience.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I think is one question I want to ask before we get into the tactical. I see two inflections for people that, do deep inner work. The first inflection point is tying that external stuff, right? You're chasing the external to try to fill an internal void. It's like that first point in your life where, like, oh my God, that felt good. And that sets off this whole season of chasing the external. And then the next inflection point is the point when you've achieved enough external stuff to realize, oh my God, it's not the answer. And that point, right after all this pain, is the point when your inner work journey starts. Like, when you were at that point and you did that line and you woke up and you're like, you were sad, like, what's going through your head right there? Reflecting on what you had been doing and where you want to go. Like, what was the shift internally for you that really made you finally commit to being like, there's got to be a better way internally?
Like I think we all searching for what's gonna make us happy deep down, and we don't know when we were born. We have some things. Like, we're happy as a kid, we're just happy. And at one point we lose that somehow. And I think that's the game of life. And I was digging. I felt like I was digging in a hole. And at one point, I realized there was no more digging, or maybe I was just tired of digging that way. And I was like, and look back, and I saw, hey, there's other people, these hippie who are high on life, the people I kind of like hated, because like they were happy just doing nothing and they didn't need nothing. And I was like, these people, they seem way. I had to be honest with myself at that time. I thought that taking drugs was happiness. I thought that taking drugs would make me feeling good, but it did on the surface level, but I was dependent. And then I asked myself, can I do that? Like, one point of burying that suffering through all the layers of drugs and layers of being fake. I asked myself, can I change? Like, can I do something different? I felt like it was the end of the line. I felt like I admitted to myself that all the things that had created were just lies. And then I had to step back. And it's like, my life is out of my control and I'm suffering and I need to do something else. So I felt like the choice was very easy when I looked at other people. And people say that you should not compare yourself. I think we should, but we should learn to love ourselves when we do. Like, it's impossible not to compare ourselves. Like, when I see you, I know already that you're not wearing the same shirt as me, but that doesn't hurt me, you know. If I see you and you're like, oh my God, he's making twice as much as money as me, and I start to feel bad, it's not a comparison that is bad. Is that I'm not accepting myself with my income. That's the thing. It's not the comparison. Comparison is natural. That's why we learn something. If you see someone doing a handstand and it's like, oh, I want to learn that, is because you're comparing yourself with the guy who does it. Like, I don't know how to do it. He knows how to do it. He looks cool doing it. You know, like, see someone doing a muscle up, like, oh, this guy looks cool when he does that. I don't know how to do it. I want to look cool. So we compare ourselves all the time. So I think like learning to compare yourself and having that honesty of like, these people actually look better. You know, the thing is that usually when someone has something we don't have, we get frustrated and we accuse them like, oh, these people, they're doing something wrong, you know, like this. I mean, when I'm generally working with people on finances, you know, and there's a lot of ideas like, oh, powerful people, they have so much money, they are over the top of the law, you know, they're bad people, they're evil. Like, I don't want to have that much money. I just want to have enough money to survive, you know, things like that. So we invent ideas about the people who are feeling good or feeling happy with what we don't have, in order to not see the pain that we feel. So that's, I think that's the biggest step of courage, is to accept that some people feel good, some people are happy, some people are satisfied in ways that we cannot imagine. And if we be humble a little bit to say, you know what, this guy there, he seems like he's having a better time than me. Maybe I should ask him, what are you doing, man? You know, like, what are you doing to be better in your life than me? Like, I want to be humble here. Like, it seems like you're winning in a ways that I cannot imagine. And that's, I think, the biggest thing we have to do. And the ego is the biggest block, because the ego is what creates the suffering, and what blocks us into that desire of like proving ourselves. And like, I remember when I was in that state of like burning out, and I was like, I needed to prove that I could do everything myself. I was hyper independent. I was like, I'm gonna do everything myself. I'm a one-man army. I'm gonna wake up at 5 in the morning. I'm gonna cook for myself. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna go my business. I don't need to delegate. I don't need anything. I don't need support. And then 3 weeks later, you're just like burning out. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? And but that idea of like, I have to succeed just by myself, I have to be the one who does it, that's the ego of like wanting to show that you're stronger than the others. But it didn't work. And then I was just like, okay, you know, I see that guy, he's making millions, he's surfing every day, and I'm like, can I spend a weekend with you, man? And the guy super nice, Thomas. He invited me in his villa in Bali, and I spent a weekend with him. I was like, it's possible to work 2 hours a day, to have passive income, to go surfing every day, and to delegate everything you have to do and still be proud of your business. And I was like, I thought I had to do everything to just feel like I deserve that I have done something, you know, that like self-made man and all of these ideas we have, you know, I'm a self-made man, no one's helping me, I'm doing everything by myself. But it's not true, you know, like the clothes you're wearing, someone made them for you. You know, you cannot do everything by yourself. And people who believe that they're making everything by themselves, like, I dare them to look around their room and, did you do your bed? Did you build the bed? Did you build the
Yeah.
house? No, you just do one thing. You think that in your business you're doing everything because you're giving yourself more work, but someone built the laptop you're using. So,
Yeah.
you know, when we accept that it's impossible to be a one-man army, that even if you're a one-man army, you're receiving the weapons from someone else, and then accepting that we're meant to receive help. That's the first place, you know, accepting that we're meant to receive help.
It's amazing. I like that. There's healthy and unhealthy comparison. So,
Yeah.
looking to other people to model, like, hey, he has something that I want. That's great, but not feeling the lack of like, I'm not there yet. Using it as inspiration instead of, a stick to beat yourself with. So lastly, I just want to say, like, so what is your subconscious conditioning, and how do you begin to recondition it?
So the subconscious conditioning, well, by definition, it's subconscious. So right now we're talking, I'm conscious of what you're doing. I'm not conscious of how my body temperature is, or I'm not conscious of my breathing. So it's, by definition, everything that I'm not conscious of directly is subconscious. If I take a break and I'm just observing my breathing, I'm becoming conscious of my breathing, right? The interesting thing with the breathing is that it is generally ruled by the subconscious. So the subconscious is the part of us, it's 95% of our processing power that is doing everything that we're not doing consciously. Like my hands are moving right now, but I'm not conscious of it. I'm so used to have movements when I'm talking that they just move that by themselves. And that's my subconscious. So it's a part of us that we program through habit, through repetition, and sometimes through a very strong emotional event. So you could have a car accident, or you might have been bitten by a dog when you were a kid, and that created a high intensity of emotion, and it just engraved something within your brain under the form of what we call a trauma. And what is interesting is that during the first 6 years of our life, we're just like a sponge, and we absorbing everything for the environment to have a base in order for your identity to build on. And over time, we're supposed to become conscious of all of these patterns that we're creating, the way we're speaking, the way we're relating to authority, the way we're relating to the other genders, the way we're relating to work, to money. All of these things, we start to be conscious of them. And generally, a lot of people have a hard time changing these habits because they're so deeply engraved that it just feels automatic, like the breathing, because it's ruled by the subconscious. And that's one sentence I really love is automatic, like the breathing, because your breathing is automated. Like when you put your shoes on, you don't think about it anymore. You see your shoes and the actions start happening by itself. You go out of the door. Locking the door is also something that you don't have to think about it. It's not like when you're reading the manual of a new product that you have. You have to learn something. So you've learned something, and in order to use less processing power, it's just being automated. Like everything that AI is doing right now, you're creating something, you're asking AI to replicate it, and it's just automatic. You don't have to do it again. But there is a very amazing thing, is that we can hack the subconscious. The same way as that we can reprogram a computer, the same way as we can download new apps into a phone, the subconscious is reactive to emotions, to words, to actions. So if you go running every day, every morning at the same time, or if you eat at the same time, your subconscious will create a desire for this to happen again. And so that's the action based. But you can have also the hypnosis, which is just relaxing your mind, opening your brain in such a way that ideas enter faster and they get engraved way faster. According to what I've heard during a seminar, if you read positive affirmation like I'm successful, I'm powerful, and performance, and you just do it like I'm talking to you right now, it would take 400 sessions to make an impact in your brain. But if you do the same thing while being in a state of trance, it takes 20 repetition. So it just really shortened the way for the brain to absorb information and to make it permanent. Making permanent in the sense that you start thinking, feeling, and behaving naturally within the scope of what you want to create. And I'm the living proof of it, because there was a time for me waking up would mean taking cocaine. There was a time for me waking up would be like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And now I just feel so natural to wake up at 5 in the morning. I feel so natural to just open my laptop and start working. Like all the things that I used to have a lot of resistance before, they just became so natural for me. And I did it the easy way, because I just plug in my earphones, I go to sleep, and next morning I wake up and I'm just feeling like the drive of doing things.
That is amazing. Yeah, I think with the subconscious condition, like you said, a lot of it gets programmed in those early childhood years, because we don't have the analytical mind to filter that information. We're just like, so everything our parents are doing and their energy and their beliefs and everything is just how we are. So a lot of adulthood is first becoming aware of what even are the patterns running, like what even is going on, and then understanding do these patterns support who I want to be? And if that's the start, and then once this pattern is not, and understand that your patterns are not you. Like, you are the awareness that observes all this. You observe the thoughts, the emotions, the patterns, and understanding which ones you want to let go of, right? And then, like you said, reprogramming. So, and then why do you think that it creates only, it only takes 20 repetitions when you're in a state of trance versus 400 when your conscious mind is online? How's that? What's the difference there?
Well, you just mentioned, like you talk about the critical mind, so when you are awake, the critical mind is like, well, I'm not successful, well, I'm not productive. I felt my day was unproductive, and I'm trying to tell myself that I am productive, where I saw myself being unproductive during the whole day. But when you're instead of trance, you are instead of sleep, and there's no thinking, there's just accepting. Like the subconscious accepts everything that you say to it. And well, what we want also to say, when we record hypnosis, or when we do a hypnosis, usually someone who is efficient in what they're doing, they will believe, the words. I don't have to believe that you're having high performance. I don't have to believe that you are productive. I just need to believe in productivity when I'm saying it. When I'm hypnotizing someone, I believe it's possible to make 10 grand in a day. I believe it's possible to increase their income. They don't have to believe. I don't have to believe that they will do it. I just have to believe that it's possible. And we have the ability to really listen to this subtle cue. When I'm saying like the word confidence, when I'm saying with firmness, like, you're gonna be confident now. This is gonna happen. I'm saying it in a way as if there was no other options. The subconscious, he accepts that, and he just takes it as it is. And that's also, like the other way where it can be dangerous, because people on social media, they get hypnotized by their feed. They get hypnotized by what they're watching, and then this information goes inside of them. We've been talking about how television has been programming our generation, and it's the same thing now with social media. So it's an amazing tool that can also be very dangerous if it's used wrong. And I have no issue with social media. I've trained my algorithm to hypnotize me in the right way, because all the content I'm having is the right one. If I see something I don't like, I just tell you, I'm like, don't show me this. And you can clear out your algorithm of anything that is not positive for your growth.
Yeah, that's huge. So you're saying that now, are you saying, you just have to believe it's possible? You don't have to believe. So is that for you as the facilitator of hypnosis, or you're saying for the person who's trying to reprogram their mind, that person, they just have to believe it is possible, not like I'm a millionaire, but it is possible to be a millionaire?
Yeah, because when you go into state of trance, the notion of like the ego disappears. It's the ego that doesn't believe. The ego creates a confinement of like, this is who I am. I need to make 10 grand a month. I need to have programs with my wife. The neighbor's always gonna be bitchy, and like the ego creates that kind of confinement. This is who I am, and that's how my life is gonna be. And then every time it happens, it confirms and reaffirms to the ego that the world that we live is under control, because the ego wants to have control, and having a confinement of who I am creates that sense of false control. But when you go into a state of trance, the ego is not there anymore. The ego is long gone, and there's only the essence of who you are. There's only like the source code, and where we can rewrite that. So that's also the part where the disbelief of like, I cannot do it, disappears. Or like, I'm socially anxious. When you are sleeping, you're not socially anxious. The social anxiety doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's only when you awake and there's someone in front of you that you believe that you're socially anxious. But if there's no one, you're not socially anxious. Being socially anxious only exists when there is someone to prove to them that you are socially anxious.
Yeah, 100%. I think what you're saying here is super important to put kind of a scientific lens on it too. That sense of self is referred to like in our brain as like the default mode network. It's like responsible for our self-referential thinking, like who I am is my default mode network. So when you go into a state of trance, right, we're slowing our brain waves down from the beta, which is like the analytical mind, into alpha. And when we go into alpha, like you said, that critical part of our brain, it literally goes offline. And that part, that critical part, the default mode network, is also where our sense of self lives, our ego lives. So basically it goes to sleep. It's almost like the bouncer at the club, right? You're trying to get in the club, right? And it's like in the club, we got to be negative. We hate on each other and we stress. And you walk up when the bouncer's on guard and you're like, hey man, like, I'm just trying to love on everyone. Like, let's be grateful. That he's like, hell no, not in this club. We don't do that. Right. But once the bouncer is sleeping out front, right, he's asleep. You can sneak in, you can infiltrate the club. You can infiltrate with your new beliefs and your gratitude and your positivity.
Exactly.
And then you start to, get everyone going on that vibe. So I think that's great though.
Yeah, this is right. Like the bouncer is filtering to only have negative people coming inside of the party. But then when he's not there, you can say, like the door is open. I'm gonna bring all my positive friends, and there's gonna be so many positive friends that the party is gonna be so amazing, and everybody is gonna be having a good time and having fun. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
it's amazing. I'll say, let's end with this. What's one thing that people can do today, actionable, to start reprogramming their subconscious mind to one that benefits them?
I mean, go on YouTube and type hypnosis and type whatever subjects you want. There's everything. You can find my channel as well. I'm mainly uploading on performance, confidence, focus, and finances. But anything you want, I would recommend Michael Seeley. He's doing all of the general hypnosis for sleep, for confidence, for childhood trauma. I learned a lot from him. He has this very deep, like the stereotypical voice of the hypnotist. Michael Seeley, I recommend. If you're more into performance, there's also Marissa Peer. She's very famous from Mind Valley. She's also doing everything from finances. Paul McKinney as well. There's a lot. One of my that I love is Mark Cunningham, but he's not very active on YouTube, and I think he's not even active anymore professionally. But there's a lot. There's a lot of people creating hypnosis on YouTube. It's free. You can some of them just put them at night, so it doesn't even take your daytime. Some people don't want to invest 1 hour. I do mine 20 minutes because my clients always they're very stressed about time, so I'm making short ones, but are still very powerful. But yeah, there's plenty of things that you can do if you want to have hypnosis. YouTube is the best place to start. Just type in whatever subject that is in your mind. That's what you want to change. What I would recommend is not to expect tremendous result from one listen, because these are things that are created on social media that are not especially for you. If you have a session with someone, it will be way more powerful. But listen to it a few times, listen to it 10, 20 times, and the result will show up. It might not show up in the first week, but what I've noticed in my own life is that every 3 months, the recordings I created for myself 3 months ago have been applied. And, I'm like, wow, 3 months ago, I created a hypnosis to be more confident. Or 3 months ago, I created a hypnosis to feel more relaxed. And it happens, that's the amazing thing,
Yeah, and the best time to do it is probably in the morning or in the evening, right? When our brain waves are kind of slower, and it's just because it's harder to get into that state in the middle of the day, probably because you're already ramped up.
Yeah. So I generally recommend people to do it in the morning more than the evening, because you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes you do hypnosis and you might wake up after being a little bit shaken because some old emotions, some trauma have been awakened. And I had the mistake sometimes of doing some hypnosis and then waking up in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh my God, I remember that moment when my childhood where I was being bullied, and then you're having this heavy breathing and you cannot sleep anymore. And if you have to work the next day, it's not the most efficient thing. Everything that's trauma related, I would just do it, during the weekend. If you have performance-based hypnosis, more focus, confidence, I would also recommend to do it in the morning, first thing in the morning. Like this, you can see the confidence acting out during the day. If you do a confidence hypnosis and you go to sleep, you're just gonna be confident in your sleep. You're not gonna really be noticing any changes. But if you do it in the morning, you will see clear changes. I see that with my clients. They do it in the morning and they feel confident throughout the day, and then at night they can just wind down.
It's amazing. So in the morning, go on YouTube, search hypnosis, whatever you need. You want to be more abundant, more confident, more grateful, more whatever, search for that. And basically you're going to listen to it. It's going to be trance-like music and talking, and you're just going to relax in the morning, sit down, let yourself fall into this relaxed state. and let that analytical mind come offline so we can start to penetrate, right, and reprogram those conditioning. And then one day, and again, it's not like this big cathartic moment of like, oh my gosh, everything changed. It's just like in a couple months, you realize like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually like way more confident. You know what I mean? It's like a subtle realization.
Yeah.
But cool. So the number one place to get a hold of you is where? YouTube, would you say?
YouTube, yeah. If you want to have my hypnosis, I'm uploading regularly there on YouTube. My name is The Best of Asha. If you want to have a chat with me, come on to Instagram. It's also the same, The Best of Asha.
The Best of Asha. I'm gonna follow.
Yeah.
I don't think I follow you on Instagram, but I'm gonna go to your YouTube, bro. I'm gonna go get some hypnosis in. That's great. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Just a wonderful human being, man. Good, incredible story, and I just see your light shining through, and just so much love for everyone. And you're definitely walking in alignment with what you were meant to do on this earth, which is an amazing thing. And there's really no better feeling than that. So I appreciate you. If anyone wants to learn more about Asha, Best of Asha on YouTube and Instagram, and we'll keep leveling up. Just stick around.
Thank you, Jake.
I'm going to end this. All right, guys. Till next time, all the peace, all the power.
Bye.